Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to this session, our very first webinar of the British Council's Study UK in Southern Europe event. My name is Helen Etheridge, and I'm the British Council's Higher Education and Science Sector Lead for the EU Europe region. So a big welcome to all of you. I'm speaking to you today from London, and we're pleased it's very sunny here today. So big hello from London. It's an exciting time, I think, for each and every one of you who are joining us today on this call, whether you're a student, which I know many of you are, considering pursuing a UK higher education qualification in Southern Europe. Maybe you're the parent or a guardian of a student, or perhaps you're a student advisor. If you've come along to this event, then you're likely involved in a big decision-making journey at the moment. And it's our hope at the British Council that we can support you in that process, in that journey, over this coming week for this event, but also going forward, should you have any need of any help along the way. Or maybe you just like to find out a little bit more about the options that are out there. That's good too, and we hope to be able to help you. So if I just take us to our next slide, and before we kick off, just a few housekeeping points from my side. So we want today's webinar to be as interactive as possible. So please type your questions into the Q&A box, and we'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can at the end of the webinar when we'll have a little time then. So there's a little blue and white button on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. That's the chat function, and you'll be able to type your questions in there. Don't forget that you can also ask your questions directly to the universities this week as well. So if you have any specific questions, perhaps that's the best way for you to get some of those answers. But anything more general about what UK transnational education is all about, that's what we're here to help you with today. If you're not able to go along to all of the live webinars this week, then not to worry, you can catch your recordings via the platform that you've registered on, the Study UK and Southern Europe platform, after the webinars have happened. Be sure to definitely book some one-to-one chats, some one-to-one meetings with the universities that you are interested in who are participating this week in our event. They're really friendly, and they're all here this week to help you. So they're just informal chats. They're not interviews, it's not formal, so don't worry. But if you do feel at all nervous, then you're more than welcome to bring along a friend, a colleague, a teacher, a parent, along with you, just if it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. And finally, on this bit, the British Council will record today's session. Don't worry, as the audience, we can't see or hear you or anything, but it means that you will receive the recording via email after today's event, and you'll be able to share it with others who might be interested. And it will also appear on the event platform after a little time. So that's the housekeeping information. And I'm pleased to now introduce some of our speakers with you today that you can see on the screen. Just to introduce my colleagues. So first of all, Kevin van Kouter, you can see there is Principal Consultant at the British Council and does a lot of work in the transnational education space. We have Eduardo Ramos joining us as well from Universities UK International, and he's the head of Transnational Education Programme there. And we also have my colleague Ivo Slavov from our office in Bulgaria with the British Council, and he's our Higher Education and Science Lead there in Bulgaria, and will actually be speaking to all of you who are interested in the offer in Bulgaria in not too long, so do look out for that. And Ivo will also be helping us keep an eye on the Q&A box as well as we go on today. So before we properly get down to business, I'd just like to say a few words about the Study UK in Southern Europe event as a whole that you've all registered for and which this webinar is a part of. So it's an online event, as you can tell from today, so from the 14th, Monday the 14th to Friday the 18th of March, so 1 week long. It's all hosted on this platform. The event is designed for both undergraduate and postgraduate level to find out more about the UK higher education opportunities available to you in the following countries. So Greece, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, and Malta. So this week will be jam-packed with webinars where you will hear from universities themselves about the UK undergraduate and postgraduate courses that they have on offer. And we also have some useful introductory sessions on the offer in each of those countries as well, led by my British Council colleagues across the region. Most importantly, I think, is that chance that I mentioned for you to book the one-to-one informal chats with the universities that you're interested in. So on this platform, do check out their profile pages. And on there, you can simply click the button to book a meeting with them and choose a slot that works with your calendar. So now, I'd like to first hand over to Kevin and Eduardo to introduce themselves, because I've only introduced them very briefly there. But perhaps if we start with Kevin, if you wouldn't mind just saying a few words about yourself and the work you do at the British Council, and then we'll hand over to Eduardo.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. So my name's Kevin Van Corter. I'm a Principal Higher Education Advisor at the British Council, based in the UK. And my role has been for many years to work with across the British Council's global network on matters relating to transnational education. So I've been working on setting up programs, partnerships, supporting UK universities in their aims to deliver more transnational education programs. And I've had about at least 20 years experience in transnational education. So I've got I've worked in the region. So I've worked with colleagues in many of the countries who are involved in this webinar. So I've got a little bit of an understanding of what's happening in each country. And I'm going to be trying to explain to you a little bit more, along with Eduardo, about what transnational education is over the next 45 minutes or so.
Perfect. Thanks, Kevin. It's great to have you here. And Eduardo, over to you.
Thanks very much, Helen. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, colleagues from British Council, for having me here. It's a very timely event. My name is Eduardo. I'm originally from Spain, but I live in the UK, so I'm joining you from London, as Helen is. I'm very glad to be here with you today. I work as Head of Transnational Education for Universities UK International. Universities UK is a membership organization. We represent 140 universities in the UK, and we fundamentally do three things. The first one is we do advocacy on behalf of the sector. For instance, we informed the UK's international education strategy that is now currently in place. Secondly, we increase the knowledge base on transnational education. We, for instance, publish research on TNE, many times in partnership with the British Council. I will speak a little bit later about TNE numbers, for instance, coming out from our research. And thirdly, we build capacity in the sector to expand high quality TNE. And I'll also be glad to talk about what we understand by high quality in a TNE environment. So those are the main three things we do, and I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Eduardo. It's really great to have that perspective as well from the university side. So thank you. So now let's get into some of the detail. This week's event, as I said, is all about UK transnational education degrees in Southern Europe. But perhaps not everybody in the audience today will know what we're talking about when we say transnational education. It is a bit of a funny term. So Kevin, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off, if you were to explain the term UK transnational education to a student who's never heard of it, how would you perhaps explain it to them?
Sure. So, as you said, Helen, transnational education is a little bit of a confusing term, I think. It's something that was coined, a term that was coined about 20 years ago to try and define the sort of new trend in international higher education, which was where programs are being delivered by one country to students who are located in another country. That's probably the simplest way of describing transnational education. So think about it in terms of the mobility of the institution or the mobility of the program rather than the mobility of the student. So we're talking about programs which will lead to higher education qualifications delivered by UK universities to students in your home country or in a neighbouring country. So there are loads of different examples and types of this delivery, but I think that's the key definition. So think about it as a student, you're not moving, the program or the provider of the program is moving to you or to a country near where you're based. That's a very sort of straightforward definition of what can get quite technical. If you were to look up transnational education online, for example, you'd find lots of quite confusing definitions. One created by the OECD, for example, which is talking about programs or sets of courses or other types of provision which are moving around different regions. But I think about it in terms of as I've described, and then it's easier to get the concept. And it's about universities, as I've said, delivering the program in a location which is more convenient to the student. Now, there's lots of models of transnational education, and we'll talk about those, I'm sure, over the next hour or so in a bit more detail. But just I wanted to say right at the beginning that there are many different ways you can access transnational education. You can do it full-time, you can do it part-time, you can do it online. And the one common feature of these models is really that all of them, there'll be a local partner institution where you can access the training and the program. So I think I'll stop there because we're going to talk about this in a bit more detail, but hopefully that will give you a sense of what transnational education is.
That was a really useful overview, actually. And of course, there are lots of countries that do this, but for the purposes of today and this week, we're talking about the offer that the UK is bringing to you in Southern Europe. So from what Kevin's just said there, Eduardo, I wonder whether you want to tell us a bit more about the different types of UK transnational education programs on offer. What are some of the more common types, perhaps?
Sure. So, as Kevin said, in transnational education is the program of study that moves, not the student. There are many types of transnational education, as Kevin briefly mentioned, but all of them could be perhaps reduced to three basic modes of provision. Universities can deliver programs through distance learning, online. They can decide to establish a physical presence overseas, through a campus, for instance, or they can decide to enter into a transnational partnership to deliver programs. Today, we see that pure forms are rare. Most are a mix of those three basic modes of delivery, we could say. The array of models is very broad, and it ranges, as I said, from pure online all the way to large branch campuses in some countries such as China, Malaysia, Singapore, or the UAE. I have to say that although branch campuses are highly visible, over 50% of all TNE is delivered through partnership arrangements. These partnerships are very diverse and are adapted to the environment and the demand in the host country where TNE takes place. For instance, in Greece and Cyprus, which host the largest number of students in transnational education in Europe, 80% of all TNE is delivered through partnerships between UK universities and local providers, normally colleges of higher education. The programs are highly vocational and generally they are taught in English, and they fulfill a crucial function in providing education to local communities in those countries. We've also seen exponential growth in this model in later years in other countries outside of Europe, for instance, in Sri Lanka or in Nepal. There are other countries that have slightly different models. For instance, in China, there are nearly 300 joint Sino-British programs and 30 joint institutes, including 2 campuses of UK universities, Nottingham in Ningbo and Liverpool in Suzhou. These are usually joint ventures between a local university or college and a UK university, and students usually get 2 degrees, one from the UK university and one from the local university. They have also many programs traditionally offered an opportunity or an option to study in the UK for a period of study. So it may be a summer school for a short period of study, or it may be a final year or a top-up degree that includes, say, the last year of studies in the UK. Not all TNE programs do offer that option, but a few of them do. So all in all, a wide variety of options. I think the greatest thing about TNE is precisely that it empowers students to choose among a wide range of higher education opportunities that they would not normally have access to in their home countries.
Thanks, Eduardo. So really, there's a lot of diversity, that's what I'm hearing, and really something to suit all different types of people. And that bit about going to study in the UK, perhaps as part of your course, I'm sure will be of interest to some on the call today. Kevin, we've spoken a little bit there about the offer to students. Why is it that some UK universities are interested in setting up such partnerships? How does it come about?
That's a good question. I think it's worth saying, first of all, that actually nearly the vast majority of UK universities do offer some form of transnational education, so it's quite widespread across the UK sector. I think fundamental reasons why British universities are delivering programs in this way. I think the first one is there's an increasing demand for higher education globally. So there are challenges in how to deliver this at the scale and quantity demanded. So it's really about demand from students. There's a huge growth in the number of students looking to take international programs and access UK higher education, and British universities are looking at having to work out new ways of delivering in order to meet that demand. So I think that's one of the key reasons is the increased demand for higher education and international experience. There's also things like the greater role for technology, allowing students to access from programs from anywhere at any time. There's definitely more of an emphasis on internationalization and increasing mobility. And I think another key reason is greater emphasis on employability and entrepreneurship for graduates. So a lot of transnational education programs are really looking at delivering the skills, as Eduardo mentioned, a lot of them have vocational elements, the skills that are needed in the local market, and working in partnership, delivering programs locally enables that access and support for students who will then obviously be graduating and wanting to work within the region or internationally. So I think there's some of the key drivers. I think just to summarize, it's about reaching new students, diversifying the delivery of their programs, and really it's about student choice. It's about giving students as many options as possible to study for UK programs without necessarily traveling to the UK.
That's great. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I know that we'll have people from all different walks of life on the line, but employability is, of course, important to all of us, really, whichever stage we're at. So it's good to hear that TNE does have that purpose too. Eduardo, I know that Kevin earlier mentioned, or has started to mention a little bit about the different types of transnational education offers. He mentioned, for example, studying online versus in person. Perhaps you could just fill us in a bit further on the different types of qualifications available to prospective students.
Yes, of course. So in terms of qualifications, there's also a wide range of options. We see that they depend on the structure of the host country where transnational education is being delivered on demand, basically from students. In some countries, most of the students are undergraduate students, so they access 3-year bachelor's degree, 4-year bachelor's degree integrated. In some other countries, for instance, in some countries in the Middle East, more people who access transnational education are at the postgraduate level. So they many times are working professionals who want to add a qualification to an undergraduate degree that they may have acquired locally, and they do study a master's many times while they are working. So these can have face-to-face elements, they can have online elements, and so on. So there's a wide array of options available. Again, I think the professionalizing nature of TNE is crucial here. UK universities are known for providing an education that is orientated to fulfilling or filling gaps in the job market. And many times the reason why they are invited to come into certain countries and deliver their programs alongside local qualifications is precisely this expertise in developing professional skills and filling job market gaps. So I would like to put perhaps the emphasis on that the degrees that they offer are highly professionalizing. Many times they do include industry links, including placements embedded in the program. And I think this is key in the attractivity of these degrees for students who access them.
Thanks, Eduardo. And Kevin, Eduardo said there that a lot of this is down to the demand from the students or the local context. I just wanted to ask you, should we expect to see a very similar offer of UK transnational education across different countries, or does it vary a bit from country to country? Could you say any more about that?
Of course, it varies from country to country, and I think this relates to what I was saying earlier about, UK universities responding to increased demand. So there are certain countries and regions where there's significant demand and infrastructure, and UK universities can develop partnerships. In other countries, there's probably a relatively limited number, but I think it's important to say that in most countries around the world, there are options for transnational education. I think UK TNE is delivered in something like 200 countries and territories around the world. So there's opportunities everywhere, but they are very different. So in the region, in the Southeast Europe region, we know that Greece has a large number of programs, and that's really for historical reasons and because there's been significant demand there, and good quality partners for UK universities to work with. Where some of the other countries, it's a relatively new phenomenon, but particularly at postgraduate level, there's increased numbers of programs being delivered. So joint programs, joint master's degrees, opportunities to do research programs. So yeah, it varies by country and infrastructure, and because obviously the UK university is looking for appropriate partners in order to deliver the programs, and where they're available and where there's a match of in terms of expertise and the demand is there, then programs are generally available. So it is variable, but I think there are particular countries which also act as hubs as well. So for a student, you might look at neighbouring countries where there's greater provision of UK programs.
That's really interesting, and it sounds like it's certainly very demand-led as well and context-driven. On that note, Eduardo, I wonder, from the work that you've done, the research you do, you're probably able to tell us a bit about which countries do have many students studying UK transnational education degrees, particularly in this patch of countries that we're working with this week.
Yes, indeed. So this is very interesting, and something we do every year is to analyze where do UK universities develop TNE and why as well. As Kevin mentioned, over 200 territories worldwide have TNE, so it's something that is widely spread. Approximately half of all students that are reported are located in Asia. That's followed by the European Union, who has grown very rapidly in the last 4 years, and then Africa and the Middle East with lower numbers. In terms of specific countries, Malaysia and China are the two biggest countries. China has been increasing rapidly, of course, due to the size of the population. But there are also relatively large number of students in Sri Lanka, Hong Kong, Singapore, the UAE, or Egypt. In Europe, it's Greece and Cyprus, the two countries that host the most students, but there are significant numbers of students also in other countries, such as in Germany, in Spain, or in France. The models are, as Kevin mentioned, different depending on the operating environment and the needs of each country. For instance, there are many UK campuses in Malaysia or in the United Arab Emirates, but TNE in Europe is mostly based on partnerships with local providers. The reasons for this are multiple, but there are possibly three groups of factors that affect the model of TNE in one or another country. The first one would be, again, demand. We see an increase in demand due to demographic or socioeconomic factors in some countries, such as in China or in Egypt. The second would be a political will of the country to become an education hub. And this is, for instance, the case of Cyprus. They want to become an education hub to attract students not only from the country, but also from neighboring countries, including Northern Africa and the Middle East. And finally, the third factor would be a desire to build capacity to deliver high-quality education. For instance, in Sri Lanka, we've seen a high degree of TNE taking place in partnership with local providers that do not have degree awarding powers, but are building their capacity in quality assurance processes so that one day perhaps they can get their own degree awarding powers and deliver their education. So I think with these three main groups, we see a wider range of country accessing different forms of TNE nowadays.
Oh, really interesting research, I think, that Eduardo and his colleagues are doing. So this, I suppose, I hope has given everybody a flavour of all the different types of UK transnational education qualifications out there, and helps you better understand what we're here to discuss this week and what might be available to you as a student. So perhaps we move on now to look at the reputation of UK transnational education. It's probably something you would, of course, think about when you're deciding what you might want to go on and study. So I'm going to go back to Eduardo again. He's barely caught his breath, but there are lots of examples we've heard of UK TNE around the world. But I'd like to ask Eduardo, why is UK transnational education well regarded? And is there any difference in the qualification that a student would receive if they studied a transnational education or actually came to the UK instead?
Thank you, Helen. This is an issue that is particularly close to my heart. My previous job before joining UUK was actually in quality assurance for a London-based medical school. So I'm very acutely aware of the importance of a high-quality education for students. There are lots of examples of UK transnational education programs around the world. But the key question, I suppose, is why is it well regarded and how is it different from other qualifications you may access? And I'd go back to quality and standards. I think for all modes of learning delivered by UK universities, whether on campus within the UK or internationally through TNE, they all must comply with the same quality assurance arrangements. Higher education providers are responsible for ensuring that all their qualifications, whatever the mode or location or delivery, achieve the same standards and that these standards meet those set for all UK higher education. So some examples of requirements for higher education provision in TNE include delivering well-designed courses that provide a high-quality academic experience for all students, providing all students from admission through to completion with the support that they need to succeed and benefit from higher education, or delivering successful outcomes for all of its students, which are recognized and valued by employers and enable the students to continue to further study. So I will stop there, but I think we may get a chance to speak a little bit more about quality later on.
I think I asked the right man the right question there, so that was good. Thanks, Eduardo. It's good to know about your previous experience as well. And I think that should reassure a lot of people on the line that actually the qualification that you're getting has very much been checked and is in keeping with those requirements that Eduardo mentioned. Kevin, sticking with this theme of the student decision-making journey and what's important to them, could you tell us a bit about why students do choose to pursue UK transnational education rather than come to the UK? What are some of those reasons?
Yeah, of course. So there's a variety of reasons, and a lot of it is down to choice and personal factors, really. I mean, in essence, you're getting the same qualification as Eduardo had said. So if you take a transnational education, program, you are getting the same quality and you're getting an internationally recognized qualification. And therefore, a lot of it is down to, personal factors and where and when and how you want to study for that UK program. So many students will say that they have family or other commitments, which means they can't leave their home country for longer periods. They may, as mature students, have employment concerns or not want to leave their jobs. So these kind of factors really are important because a transnational education program will allow you to retain these commitments while still studying for, as I say, an internationally recognised UK qualification. I think also many students are thinking about their employment prospects on graduation, and they want to retain some of those local contacts and networks, which they feel they may lose if they move to the UK for 3 or 4 years. So I think that is also a benefit. You're able to continue to work in your environment in the country and maintain those contacts, and therefore often students will say it helps them with employability once they've graduated. But I think there are also other sort of reasons, and maybe why you might rule out a study in the UK full time. And some of those might be financial concerns because, and we'll talk about this I'm sure a bit later, that transnational education is generally more affordable. and issues of, if there are any other reasons why travel might not be appropriate, then that's where transnational education comes in. So I think there are a lot of reasons. A lot of them are about personal choice. But I think fundamentally, as I've said, and I think it's really important to say this again, you're getting the same quality and internationally recognised UK qualification, which is portable between countries. And I think, how you choose to study that is really down to your own personal factors. But transnational education gives you another choice. It gives you a high quality program which you can access locally. I think, for me, they're the key reasons. They're the reasons that students tell us why they study TNE programs.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, certainly as the British Council, we're often speaking to not just the providers, but the students as well. So it's good to have that feedback to feed back into the system, really. And Eduardo, could you say anything about the employability prospects? I know Kevin touched a little on there, but for students of UK transnational education, how are these types of degrees viewed by employers?
Certainly. So I think we should probably make a distinction here about private, public sector, and also regulated and non-regulated professions. Generally speaking, and I think as Kevin mentioned, a UK qualification which is regulated and quality assured according to UK standards is a global currency. It's something that is portable, that students can take to different jurisdictions and get it recognized by employers. In the private market, this normally creates no issue whatsoever. Private, from large multinational companies to small and medium-sized enterprises, they do recognize the value of a UK qualification, and most students who hold these qualifications can access employment in these companies with a competitive advantage many times. Now, the public sector is different. There may be administrative requirements that are specific to certain jobs in the public sector, as there are for access to certain regulated professions such as medicine, nursing, midwifery, but also law and so on. In this respect, I think some people may know that in 2019, Unesco adopted the first United Nations Convention on higher education related to recognition of qualifications. I think it's important to mention this convention because it's a groundbreaking effort at the multilateral level to facilitate the portability of qualifications. It's still in the phase of implementation, so it's not fully implemented yet, but we have high hopes that it will serve well students because of the range of TNE and the range of countries where it's delivered. I think the UK has a competitive advantage in terms of getting those qualifications recognized for access to all public sector jobs and also to regulated professions. What I would say in respect to public sector jobs and regulated professions is to any student who wants to access a public sector job or a regulated profession to verify with the provider of the qualification ahead of joining the program whether he or she, what are the requirements for them to access that job or that profession, because many times it's completely possible. So students do access with a UK qualification to practice medicine or nursing or midwifery in their country of origin, but sometimes there may be some additional steps that they need to make, for instance, some additional practical components or some tests that they need to undertake once they finish the qualification. So it's good to check that. Again, for private sector jobs, I think it's one of the most portable qualifications that you can get in the world is a UK higher education qualification, also through TNE.
Thanks, Eduardo. That word portable has come up a few times, and fantastic. And I think as well, I just kind of say a note to everyone on the line with us that, if you do have any of these questions about, around employability, how the qualifications can be used in country, those sorts of things, I'm sure our participating universities will also be able to lend a hand with that should you be interested in one of their particular courses. So do a check-in with them between now and Friday. Kevin, if we move back to you, could you share with us any of the considerations that prospective students should maybe be taking into account when they're choosing a transnational education or a degree? What are some of the decision making steps or things they should consider?
Yeah, of course. So I think in terms of making these decisions around program and where you want to study, again, a lot of it is personal choice, but I think there are some key factors you need to think about. First of all, as Eduardo said, you need to check the recognition of the qualification for the profession that you want to gain employment in on graduation. So that's the first step. And also just make sure as well that the UK institution, university, just check the provider, because the vast majority, of UK universities deliver transnational education, but just make sure that it's a recognised UK university, which is subject to the all the quality assurance mechanisms that Eduardo has mentioned. I think once you've established that, it's about thinking about what you want to do and how you want to study the program, because as I've already said, there's a great range of different ways of modes of study and flexibility built into different types of programs. So think about the way you want to study. Do you want to study the program part-time? Do you want to attend a campus full-time? Do you want to attend a partner institution? Look at the facilities on offer, the partner institution. Think about, the subject of study and whether that meets your requirements. So a lot of these are personal decisions that you would make, when you were studying any kind of higher education program. But I think fundamentally, when you're making these decisions, there'll be lots of different UK programs on offer from lots of different UK providers. So I would start by saying, what are the requirements? How is the program delivered? How can I access the learning? And then, as I said, just check the recognition. But generally, it's a personal choice. But I think that because there's the range of provision available, you should have the option to look at multiple different transnational education programs in your country or a neighbouring country and make your decision based on some of those factors.
Thanks, Kevin. And actually, you touched on something there that I was going to share where, we're talking about transnational education here, and there are some aspects that you need to pay particular attention to. But actually, as Kevin said, this is the same as if you were to choose any type of, qualification. You should be thinking about, your preferences, what you're interested in, and the type of career you're looking to go into. So look at the, yes, reputation is all well and good, of course, but look at the actual content of the course, and does that suit you, and and the way that it's taught as well, of course. And also location is really important for a lot of people. Are you somebody that, as Kevin said, that wants to be on the campus in a city, or would you rather be further out? It might sound silly, but you're going to be spending some time doing this course, so you really want to be comfortable. Eduardo, are you able to say any words to us about whether students will be able to improve their English with a UK transnational education degree? I think that's a question we often get.
Yes, so this again goes back to the level of the program itself. In general, I would say definitely, because many programs in TNE are taught in English, and there are certain minimum English proficiency requirements to access the course. Some programs also provide actually what we call in the UK a foundation training. So there's a year during which students who may not yet have the required level of English, they can improve their English proficiency before they access the first year of the program. They can also improve other aspects of their skill set during that year. So I would say is definitely a resounding yes in most cases. Now, in some cases, there's also a minority of TNE programs that are delivered in the local language. In those cases, generally speaking, there are also options to improve the English language, and this can also be a good option for those students who are perhaps not so worried in having the appropriate level of English before they enter the course, but they want to improve it during the course. So they can access, for instance, a program in a local language while they improve their English proficiency while studying the program. That's another option.
Thanks, Eduardo. And are you able just to elaborate at all on whether some students might need to do a test to prove their English to go into the course? I believe the answer in some cases is yes.
Indeed, yes. So again, the entry requirements may vary from one program to the next or from one institution to another. But generally speaking, there are a number of tests that are accepted. And I mean, the most extended amongst UK universities is, of course, the IELTS test, which is many times administered by the British Council. So you have the right people here in the room.
That's it. Yeah, if you do have any questions, I'm sure the British Council can support you on those with the English requirements. And Kevin, the last question from me before perhaps we go to the chat box from our audience. Are you able to say anything about value of a UK transnational education course? And by this, I really mean value for money. You did mention it might be slightly more reasonable than traveling to go and study overseas, but...
Yes, of course. So yeah, basically the answer is yes, it does provide greater value for money than studying in the UK. So if you think about the costs, so obviously transnational education programs, the cost will vary for academic fees, but in general, and probably I think this is the case for every program, it will be much cheaper than studying in the UK full time. The reasons for this are the competitive pricing. So prices will be related to the country in which the program is delivered. You will have, if you're staying in the country, you might be staying at home, so you won't have the costs associated with travel and accommodation and living in the UK. And I think given those factors, and also the fact that if you're an EU student studying in the UK, now that the UK is no longer a member of the EU, is more expensive than it was when we were a member of the EU. So there are a lot of factors which contribute to the value for money. And I think, as I said, the key point to make again, I think it's really important is that you're getting the same qualification, so you're getting a UK degree, but you're getting it at a much better rate. So it's much better value if that's the option you'd like to take. So I think really the answer is yes.
That will be good news to many on the line, I'm sure. So we have a few minutes left now. So thank you to Eduardo and Kevin for all of that information. I really do think we've covered most of the things that people would want to know when it comes to general questions about transnational education. But my colleague Ivo has just come onto the screen there, has been gathering some questions for us from the audience. So Ivo, I don't know if perhaps I hand over to you, if you wanted to share some of the questions. I know some of them will be perhaps very country specific, but if you wouldn't mind sharing some of those.
Yeah, in fact, part of them are country specific, part of them are subject specific, and maybe we could give some guidance to the members of our audience. Let's say one of the question is from ISPAS from Romania, who is interested in program in animated design education, which is very specific. I don't know if you have this information, whether some of the TNE collaborations in the region offer such kind of degree or not.
Thanks, Eva. Maybe I'll step in there.
Should we redirect ISPAS to let's say book a one-to-one meeting with some of the universities?
That's exactly it. So I was going to say a few things. One is that if you have the time today, I know you've already been sat with us for this session, but we actually have a session specifically on Romania starting in about an hour and 15 minutes. So if you look at the webinar schedule on the platform, you'll be able to go along to that. And whilst it won't answer this specific question, it will give you much more information about Romania. So definitely go along to that if you can, or sign up so that you get the recording.
Yeah,
then,
and the same is from Aristoteles, who is interested in archaeology and history, which asks which are the best universities to join. And there is the question about the costs, which emerges through some of the questions. What can we say is to advise them to check with the particular programs. Of course, the cost varies from university to university and program to program. And the best advice is to check with the particular program and universities and university. There is a question from Kaku who is living in Greece, and I don't know, she or he says that they really need to study nursing, and it's in the situation they are. They need financial support, and then again, this is the question about the fees and all the financial support. And again, we can say to Kaku to join one of the Greek webinars for more information about that.
Thanks,
I
Ivo. Actually,
think,
for
yeah.
Greece, just so that people know, because I know we have lots of people joining from Greece, there's a session tomorrow on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Greece time on Greece in general. And as Ivo said, we also have some colleagues from British Council Greece offering one-to-one sessions. So do book those. And in addition, if you look at the institutions that are participating in our event this week, each of them has a profile page on this website, on the platform, and they have a section on scholarships and funding. So do take a look there as well. And you may even find that there are certain funding pots available locally to you in your own country. That might be an option. Ivo, maybe if we just open the...
Kaku has shared another very long post that I have published, and maybe after this webinar, the panel and the colleagues from Greece can address this post in details.
Of course. No, we can definitely do that.
Can I join with a question
Please.
to our panelists? If I can see any other questions for now, we expect a new one wants to come. I attended yesterday to focus groups in regards with the research about gauging the appetite and the attitude to Bulgarian students to enroll in TNE programs, UK TNE programs in Bulgaria. And one of the concerns that came out during the conversations in those focus groups was how they can be sure that the quality of teaching, especially when we talk about the Bulgarian partner and the local partner, is the quality is the same as with the UK professors or trainers or whatever. How do we ensure in these kinds of collaborations that the quality in the local partner is the same?
I don't know who wants to take that one between Eduardo and Kevin, or maybe you both have some thoughts, but Eduardo, perhaps we go to you first.
Yes, I'm happy to answer. Thank you. I think that's a crucial question, because it's all about quality, isn't it? You are deciding whether you want to study a program which is from a UK university, but you're not traveling to the UK to do it. So how can you be sure that it's going to be of the same standard? Well, the UK universities, and as Kevin said, by UK universities, I'm talking about so-called registered providers in England, and also universities that are recognized, that have university status in the other UK nations, are tightly regulated. So they do have a minimum baseline requirements that they need to comply in delivering their courses, no matter how or where they deliver them. So this includes, of course, Bulgaria. If a UK university, say an English provider or university, wants to deliver a program or issue its own qualification in Bulgaria, they need to ensure that the processes and procedures and the outcomes that they produce are the same as they would be in the UK. And there's actually a watchdog, what we call in the UK, a regulator that has oversight on that. Now, on top of this, there's also a mechanism now to make sure that the quality is enhanced. So we are talking here about baseline requirements. So that's minimum requirements every provider needs to meet. But we also want to make sure that the quality that of the education that students receive is continuously improved. And this is done through another mechanism that is managed by the Quality Assurance Agency for Higher Education in England. This is a body that is a membership organization in the UK. And they do review transnational education programs around the globe, and they visit countries and they interview students, they interview staff, they look at documents and processes and procedures, and they come up with sets of recommendations for those institutions to enhance, or that is to improve, the standards of quality that they're offering to students. So I think the processes and procedures are there. Included in those processes are complaints mechanisms. So it's important for students to know that they can complain not only to their local providers, but sometimes also to the institution that awards the degree, so the UK university, in case they have any issue with the quality of the education they're receiving.
Thanks, Eduardo. And Eva, I've just spotted another question for our panel in the box. I know we need to come to a close soon, but it is a good one. So it's just asking, for a student in Romania, for example, but this is true for all students on the line, how can they actually find a list of institutions that offer UK transnational education programs? Because, of course, we have a number of institutions participating this week, and you can find them very easily by going onto the platform, searching your country, and it will show you who's participating there. But I don't know, Eduardo or Kevin, is there a place to go? How do people research this kind of thing?
That's a good question. So each I mean, the best thing I can say is to contact your local British Council office, because they will have information about that. There isn't a central database, unfortunately, of these programs, but I think, yeah, if you speak to your local British Council office, they will be able to inform you, what's available locally. But as far as I'm aware, I'm sure you'll agree, Eduardo, there isn't a central list of programs. Is there a global one anywhere?
No. I mean, that's a good thing for people to know in case they spend ages looking for said database. But absolutely, reach out to your local British Council office. And as I said, we have colleagues from all of the 6 countries in Southern Europe online to speak with you this week, should you have any questions such as that one. So do book those one-to-one sessions with us. We're here to help you. So, okay, I think, having looked through most of the questions we have covered off, I think, for those more specific questions, as we say, book the one-to-one meetings. I just want to just give Eduardo and Kevin the chance, in case there are any closing words that you wanted to share with our audience today. Kevin, perhaps if we start with you, is there anything you wanted to share? Yeah,
sure. I mean, just to summarize, I suppose, I think TNE is evolving, and I think it's becoming, it is now a very high quality choice for students, and it's very much a positive choice. So the perception of TNE has improved significantly in the last sort of 10 years or so. And for many people in many countries, TNE is seen as high quality. It's on a par with local provision, is recognized by employers, and the skills which the programs deliver have meant that employers are very keen to employ graduates from these types of programs. So I think in general, for students, it is now a sort of first choice. It gives you the flexibility to study in a way that suits you. So I think, this trend is continuing, and we've talked a lot about quality. So I think they're just some of the key points I'd like to say really about the, how TNE is evolving and really being developed to meet the needs of local students.
Thanks, Kevin. And Eduardo, anything from your side?
Also to summarize, and just to highlight the top advantage for me of TNE, which is that it provides the students with choice. We know from Unesco statistics that only 2% of the global university age population is internationally mobile. So what TNE does is it provides you with an option to have a British education without having to travel to the UK for an extended period of time. Sometimes this has to do with cost. As Kevin mentioned, TNE programs tend to align fees with the local general fee level, and this helps students who would not otherwise be able to afford to travel overseas to access UK programs. Other times, students have caring responsibilities at home, or some students may just prefer to stay in their country of origin to expand their professional network during their studies. So many TNE programs offer the option to study periods also in the UK. So you could potentially access 2 business networks in your home country and in the UK. And just to finalize, the other great advantage I think that TNE provides is it opens the educational horizons of students. By their nature, these transnational programs have to combine two educational philosophies, the UK scientific tradition and the local traditions of the host country. And this generates profiles that I think are very interesting for employers.
That's an excellent point there, Eduardo. Thank you. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that way, actually. But of course, you get the best of both worlds, or both countries in this instance. So thanks for that. And on that note, I think we will call the session to a close, just I know we told everyone it'd be 45 minutes of your time today. So just to thank absolutely Eduardo and Kevin for joining us, for really sharing all of that expertise with the audience, and for Ivo as well. And if you'd like to hear more about the Bulgaria offer in particular, then please do join our talk on Bulgaria, which is at the same time tomorrow. Morning. So you can join Ivo and I then. But thank you to all of our audience for coming, for all of your fantastic questions. And we hope to see you at more of our webinars and our one-to-one meetings later this week. So have a good day, everyone. See you.
Thanks, Helen. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.